Food and the Nation on ATV Yola, looking at the development in the sector of agriculture. Today in Adamawa State, we are to look at the commitment of the government towards supporting the production or to mitigate situation that surrounds the agricultural activities in the state. Today on the program, we are going to take a look and hear from experts at this location right from the Yola International Airport to look at what giant step they are embarking on towards looking at a situation that has to do with our production system and possible challenges faced by farmers in this sector. Quelea birds is a genus of small passerine birds that belongs to the weaver family, Polycerdia, confined to Africa. These are small-sized sparrow or finch-like gregarious birds with bills adapted to eating seeds of crops. Quelea may be nomadic over vast range of land. This red-billed quelea is said to be the most numerous bird species in the world. The consequences attached to the species of these birds, if not controlled at the right time, may lead to high yield losses by farmers in any region where crops are produced. In view of the scientific and historic features and experience about the danger of quelea birds prompts the need by the federal government through the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development in collaboration with Adamawa State Ministry of Agriculture to ensure the control of this endemic attack by quelea birds, which remains a challenge to farmers in the state. History have shown Goyuk, Sheleng, Numan, Lamrude, Demsa local government in the south, Yola North and Fofore in the central part of Adamawa State has suffered attack due to influx of these quelea birds species on crops yearly. There is no doubt this calls for commitment by critical stakeholders to avoid the endemic breeding of this pest. The Permanent Secretary, State Minister of Agriculture, Mrs. Felicia Zomisaki, in her welcome address at the 2019 wet season area spray of quelea birds, says the Northeast and Adamawa State in particular has faced a lot of challenges of climatic change, pest and disease, which has affected agricultural production.
The Northeast and Adamawa State in particular has faced a lot of challenges in terms of risks and uncertainties, ranging from climate change, pests and diseases, including new pests that was not known in Nigeria until 2016, that is the fall armyworm. Rainfall vagaries, floods, disruption of livelihood in some parts of the state due to insecurity, poverty and other vices. All these have directly or indirectly affected agricultural production, that is crops and livestock, which is the major occupation of our people in Adamawa State. Certainly, for us to achieve food and nutrition security in the state, we have to mitigate losses by reducing these threats. Today, Your Excellency, we are here because the federal government has responded to our reports on ravages of quelea birds that is prevalent in the state by contracting an agro-aviation company to control this birds through aerial spray. This was become inevitable because quelea birds are transboundary in nature and can fly several thousands of kilometers unhindered. We appreciate the magnanimity of the federal government for coming to our aid. Your Excellency, on behalf of our farmers, we appreciate your gesture in approving, augmenting the flight hours and procurement of additional pesticides to enable wider coverage, considering the fact that the areas with this menace cover more than 7 local governments in the state. Finally, I want to thank His Excellency for taking time to come personally to flag off this very important activity. It shows you are a governor that does not just talk, but you walk the talk. We thank you for that, and we are grateful to have you for this flag off. Thank you, and God bless you.
In his remark, the zonal coordinator, field pest for Adamawa and Taraba State, under the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, Malam Adamu Kazore, appealed to the governor, Amadu Umoru Fintri, to consider the request by the federal government of Nigeria of granting and approving flight hours, pesticides, and logistics.
It's endemic in Adamawa State, especially in Guyuk, Shelang, Lamurde, Numang, Damsa, Yola North, and Gira local governments of the state, and is now becoming yearly occurrence. Several reports of the birds devastating sorghum and rice crops in some of these local government areas have been received. His Excellency is also informed that there is need for urgent response to prevent imminent loss of crops in the state. His Excellency may wish to be informed that cereal crops such as rice and sorghum are the worst affected during the panicle stage, while dry season farmers preparing for dry season farming will much desire that the birds' population are drastically decimated due to limited irrigated areas during dry season. I will not finish this without appreciating the effort of support of the Permanent Secretary and the Field Pest Control Unit of the State Ministry of Agriculture for all the support they have been rendering to achieve this warranted task. Thank you and God bless.
To complement this gesture and effort of the federal government, Governor Amadu Umoru Fintri, in his quest to ensure Adamawa is food sufficient and to match his words with action, arrived at the venue at the Yola International Airport and flagged off the 2019 wet season federal government aerial control of Quelea birds with an appeal to the people in affected local governments to desist from eating the birds that will be killed during the
commenced the 2019 wet season federal government-sponsored aerial control of Quelea birds in Adamawa State. As we are aware, Adamawa State is predominantly agrarian, with majority of our farmers producing cereals in both dry and wet seasons. On this note, I want to use this occasion to convey our gratitude to the federal government through the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development for this timely intervention. As we all know, Adamawa State is endemic to Quelea birds, which are transboundary, and we all know the animals lost farmers suffer yearly due to the threat of these pests that are migratory in nature. Therefore, the intervention by the federal government is timely so that our farmers can achieve good harvest, as the area control is expected to reduce the population of these birds below economic injury level. Ladies and gentlemen, may I use this medium to appeal to all communities in the Quelea birds endemic local government area of Guyuk, Shelen, Numan Lamru, Demsa, and Yola North local government to please avoid eating the dead birds killed by this spray, as they are poisonous. To the service providers, Yomet Air Services Limited, I wish the pilot and the ground team safe flight during the spray exercise. With gratitude to God, I hereby declare the flag off of the 2019 wet season area control of Quelea birds in Adamawa State. And to also intimate my good friend, the zonal coordinator of Taraba and Adamawa. Like my permanent secretary said, we don't only make noise here, we match action, or work with action. We have already approved and released the funds for the augmentation of the hours and chemicals to be used to ensure that these Quelea birds are properly eliminated during this farming season. Thank you and God bless you.
Display now, so you can see signified and indicating. Leading by example, Governor Amadou Umaru Fintri assures the farmers of his support and commitment to make agriculture a centerpiece for economic growth and development. Viewers out there, you can agree with me by virtue of detailed information given to us by this expert. Adamawa State is characterized by different geographical zones, from the northern part, the central zone and the southern part. Southern parts constitutes a good vegetation that attracts breeding of birds and different agricultural challenges that bedevil our farmers in this area, which leads to the high breeding situations or environments for the birds such as Quelea birds and the rest of them. I hope it's one of why we are here.
That is true. That is right.
And the dangers of such pests cannot be overemphasized. It is quite one of the major challenges the farmers face, especially in the central parts of the state and down to the southern parts. And today we are going to move and see how this is going to be done. But it is important for you to know what distincts this kind of aircraft and that is used for agricultural activities, especially towards mitigating the infestation or the attack by this pest in this part of the region. We are going to move around and see the components involved, the readiness of this aircraft and how it's going to go about these activities. Stay tuned on the program.
Here, what we have is what we call a Cessna 172. Cessna is the manufacturer of the aircraft. 172 is the model number for this particular type of aircraft. And under normal configuration, it has just one engine. Now, this one particularly has a very powerful engine. And where the power of the engine comes into play is the load capacity of what we're able to carry. So if we put a small engine, the aircraft will still fly, but we cannot carry much load. But the bigger engine we have, that equates to the higher loads we can carry. And higher loads mean we can carry more chemicals, which we use to dispense against such birds, locusts, or whatever the season the invasion is. So, basic configuration, we call it a high-wing aircraft, and high-wing aircraft normally get better lifting capacity as well. And some aircraft, you see them, the wings are under. Those are equally good, but they do not have lift capacity as much as the high wings. So if you come around with us this side, I'll basically give you the details about the aircraft first, and then we go into the spray equipment. So as usual, the typical aircraft is not much different from any other aircraft. We have the wings here. We keep the fuel that we need to fly with, to supply to the engine, is kept in the wings. And if you see this one, we call them ailerons. These ailerons help the aircraft bank left or bank right. Moving around, have what we call a tricycle type landing gear. That is one tire in front, two tires behind. It's a typical modern configuration for aircraft. If you come around to the back, this we call the horizontal stabilizer, and what it does is it stabilizes the aircraft that's in any particular flight mode. To make the aircraft go up or down, we have what we call the elevators. This is what makes the aircraft, I'm sure you've seen aircraft taking off here, when it goes up like this is what is causing that action, for the aircraft to lift off, be able to fly straight, or to be able to descend. Here we have what we call the vertical stabilizer. The vertical stabilizer, as the name implies, it stabilizes the aircraft in what we call the yaw axis. So if we're flying like this, it prevents the aircraft nosing left and nosing right. And this is what this stabilizer is. Here is the rudder, and the rudder is what we use to deliberately turn the nose to the left or turn the nose to the right. So unlike the ailerons that make the aircraft bank left, right, the rudder makes it change direction left or right. So that is that. And if you notice, normally we cannot have the controls on only one side, so we have it on two sides to balance out any unruly forces. So that's pretty much what we have with the aircraft itself. Conventionally, it's a utility aircraft. Many pilots have learned how to fly with aircraft like this. Thousands, millions of pilots over time. It's a very unique aircraft, very reliable and very durable. So that is why we have this particular aircraft for that use. So I'll take you now into the spraying equipment. It's a system of basically three components, let me say. We have a tank where we put in the chemical. We have pumps that pump out the chemical. And we have this you see on the wings, under the wings, there are the booms. And the booms is where the chemical comes out. You see all of here is darker because of some spillage from the chemical. And these are what we call nozzles or atomizers. These nozzles or atomizers is what makes the spray into a very fine spray, like something like shell tox when you flee to your room. That fine spray. So this is what is responsible for doing that, taking care of that atomization of the chemical. And inside, I don't know if you can get it.
You can go in.
That is our Sorensen tank. And each time we load, we take more than, we can actually take more than one drum, but we normally just take one drum and dispense that. If it is a vast area that we put on the pumps and it just continues spreading, the beds are all over the place, that one we can dispense in about 30 minutes, 40 minutes, non-stop. But a lot of times we cannot do that because you have nesting sites here, some are here, you know, some can be as far as 5 miles apart. So when we come, put on the pumps, spray where it is, move over, next site, spray where it is, and so on. In that case, we fly as much as our fuel will allow us. We can fly up to 4 hours, 4.5 hours in that kind of operation. And of course, the distance to get to even the place where we need to dispense those chemicals also comes into play. But averagely, we can do up to 4 hours of flight. Averagely, our flights, each flight on that one drum is about 2.5 hours. It's depending on, like I said, on area and size of the infestation. Yes. So apart from that, if you look behind, when we're mentioning the pumps, those are the spray pumps over there.
Pressure pumps?
Yes, they are high pressure pumps. And we have a system where we can vary the flow of the chemical. For instance, if we were to spray mosquito, for instance, it's a ULV, what we call ULV application, ultra low volume application.
You will look at it as a calibration method compared to the manual sprayers over here?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
For Quelea birds, there's a particular ratio, depending on the chemical used. They might tell you dispense maybe 25 liters per hectare or something like that. So we have to now fine-tune our equipment to be able to deliver that kind of requirement. So it's a bit technical, but I mean it can be done.
Okay, having said and done now, can you get into the flight and let's see exactly how poised it is before we take off?
Well, it's the aircraft. Well, let me get my colleague. Let him go in while I explain.
Okay.
So normally he gets in, he will set up himself. In flying, it's all about safety. To get the job done, we have to be as safe as possible. So there are so many safety measures. Like you see now, he's setting up, strapping himself in. That's right. So pretty much now he's set up, but there is still a procedure he has to go through before he even starts the engine. Yes. We have a checklist, both a normal operations checklist and emergency checklist, which we hope never to use anyway, that emergency side, but it's there for us to use in case we have issues with the aircraft. So from there, you communicate to the control tower. You cannot just get in the aircraft and just start. You get in, communicate with the control tower, ask them permission to even start your engine and tell them where you want to go. You know, so those are the normal procedures. And like you said, if you see, if you turn to do the aileron left and right, like we were mentioning these ailerons, so if he turns it this way, the aircraft will tilt and bank to the left. Just turns it the other way to tilt the other way and bank. And the elevator, you see, you can pull it in and out, unlike a car steering that you only turn. This one you can pull and push. So that's what makes the aircraft go up or down. Yes.
Climaxing the occasion, the farmers gave a highlight on the events and thanks the government for their commitment towards supporting and actualizing the dreams of the farmers in the state.
is marvelous, I can say. It's relatively marvelous because definitely this is an era, time that is good for this area supply. By the time these crops are good, and it's, in fact, I can say, with the commitment I had from the governor, who is an action governor, I think everything will be okay. It's not a person who can just talk and leave. It's a person who can talk and do and see it's done. So that one is very, on behalf of my farmers, I really appreciate his effort. The federal government has done its might. In addition, he has already added both chemical and hours of supply to cover wider areas. So that one is a marvelous thing by the legislature.